Part of the problem. The reforms came through, and the banks are upset about them. And the banks are fighting back, and they're saying you and Dodd-Frank, the reform bill, made life too hard. Financial reforms hurting Americans, hurt them so much that they need to put new fees on customers. I just pulled 3 of them from 3 banks everyone knows. Citibank now charging $15 a month if you have a balance under $6,000. It's pretty regressive. Bank of America, $5 a month for the right to use a debit card. And JP Morgan Chase earlier this year tried out $5 ATM fees for non-Chase customers. Do they need to do these things, or are they purposely trying to do things that hit the public to try to get the public on board with them getting rid of their reform?
The banks are blaming the reforms in the government for everything,
right,
including lots of problems that they themselves were central to causing. And most people are terribly angry and frustrated with that,
right,
and they want to see things change. And what we're trying to do is to make sure that we put in place the kind of protections consumers and investors deserve, so they're not vulnerable again to the kind of mistakes we saw across the American financial system. There's no surprise, there's nothing strange about the fact that banks are resisting it, are pushing back, they're trying to weaken those reforms, and we're going to push back harder. And in the end, we're going to prevail because what we're doing is a reasonable, sensible thing, which is to make sure the American economy is never again vulnerable to this degree of basic abuse, mistakes, excessive risk-taking, and that's why these reforms are so important. Now, we're do it in a way that doesn't hurt the recovery. We're trying to do it in a way to make sure that credit is more available, not less available. The economy is going to get stronger as we make the system more stable, and that's a difficult balance to strike, and people are going to complain about it.
60 days since we lost AAA. How many days am I going to have to count? Because I'm doing it every day.
You should count it every day, and you should ask Congress to pass the kind of reforms we need, not just to make the economy stronger in the short term, but to bring resources of gravity to our long-term fiscal position. Now, after Standard & Poor's acted, you've seen interest rates fall in the United States. The dollar is broadly stronger because people around the world still believe we're
They believe in it, right? It's still the best place to live.
And they basically believe that the America, in the end, will do the right thing. We just got to make sure we do it soon enough.
You're an iPhone owner, right? The embodiment of American exceptionalism, but now you get a 4S?
I would say it's not the embodiment. It's a good example of the fact that we are very innovative, dynamic economy.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Secretary Geithner. Appreciate it.
Some level, because of that vitriol that he's had to suffer, he's handled.
Okay, now we're back at Tavis Smiley talking to Michael Moore again. But first I want to read some definitions to you. Now, this first definition that I want to read to you is what the president is. He's the executive branch of the government. He is the chief executive officer of the United States of America. Now, let me read what his job is. The branch of government charged with the execution and enforcement of laws and policies and the administration of public affairs. The administration of public affairs. That has to do with jobs too, no? If you want to create some jobs with the economy, he's within his sphere of authority. Just a moment. Let's go on down here a little bit. It says the executive. It says the branch of federal and state government that is broadly responsible for implementing, supporting, and enforcing the laws made by the legislative branch, that's the Congress, and interpreted by the judicial branch. At the state level, the executive includes governors. At the state level, the executive branch includes governors and their staffs. At the federal level, the executive includes the president, the vice president, staffs of appointment advisors, including the cabinet, and a variety of departments and agencies such as the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, and the Postal Service, see Postmaster General. The executive branch also proposes a great deal of legislation to Congress and appoints federal judges, including justices of the Supreme Court. Although the executive branch guides the nation's domestic and foreign policies, the system of checks and balances works to limit its power. Meaning it's not a dictatorship, but let me show you why these people look so foolish when they come out there talking about President Obama as though it's just him they're dealing with. I want you to give me a minute here, because we want to make sure I want to make sure that we understand something about the President of the United States. You know, these computers are some really handy tools. I mean, the administration cabinet. The tradition of the cabinet dates back to the beginnings of the presidency itself, established in Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution. The cabinet's role is to advise the president on any subject he may require relating to the duties of each member's respective office. The cabinet includes the vice president and the heads of 15 executive departments, the secretaries of Agriculture, Commerce, Defense, Education, Energy, Health and Human Services, Homeland Security, Housing and Urban Development, Interior, Labor, what? Labor, State, Transportation, Treasury, and Veterans Affairs, as well as the Attorney General. Now, here is the President Obama at cabinet meeting April 20th, 2009 at the White House, and they have a White House photo of it, and most of his cabinet is Caucasian people, except for 1, 2, and him. All the rest are Caucasian. What did Solomon say? In the multitude of counselors, there is what? There is safety. Now, let me read to you what's happening here. This is in order of succession to the presidency. Vice President of the United States, which is Joseph R. Biden. Department of State, Secretary Hillary Rodham Clinton. Department of the Treasury, Secretary Timothy F. Geithner. You just heard him being interviewed. Now he got this whole litany of people that he gets advice from. After he gets advice from them, he goes to Congress and says, look, this is what we need to do. Let's do this. He's the first president that Congress did like they're doing him. Now here, John Boehner and all these other Congress people sitting up there as though they got some cabinet somewhere advising them. Ain't nobody advising them but them. And they got nerve enough to come out in front of us and call themselves snubbing their nose at the chief executive of the United States as though they obviously think that you don't know how it goes. And some of y'all act like you don't know how it goes. I'm not just talking to these people in this room here. I'm talking to all of you all that's on the internet and everywhere else. Why are you acting like the president, like President Obama is not the president? This is why. Let me show you. I got it right here. I'm going to let you hear it. Right now.
Handled it quite well. I don't know if I would have handled it as well. I liken it to this cat. He has so many times held out that olive branch and has had it whacked out of his hands. The Republicans, they've admitted, they went to dinner, literally, to dinner on inauguration night, the top leadership. And they just decided they were going to stop him from doing anything. They were going to grind the wheels of government to a halt, and they were going to essentially ignore him for 4 years. They were going to stop whatever they could stop, even when he put language in that was their language, even when he proposed bills that were essentially their old bills. They just decided they were going to stop him, and it's like he didn't exist. It's like he was a ghost. They're just going to wait him out for 4 years and then get rid of him. And it reminded me of that book I read in high school by Ralph Ellison called The Invisible Man, where he spoke so eloquently of what it was like to grow up as a black man in the 30s and 40s and 50s in the United States, where people would just talk past you. You'd be in the same room, like you didn't even exist. You could be on the elevator. You could be, you were this invisible, but you lived on the other side of town, out of sight, out of mind. Well, they have treated him like the invisible president. They tried to get away with this, and I don't make the racial comment there lightly either, because I think that there has been this racial element, and it's been very sad to see some of these Tea Party people in these demonstrations and whatever, and the language that they use and the signs that they have. This really isn't the America that we live in now. The majority of people don't feel that way, and I would hope that President Obama would now, is now, what hopefully will not be his last year as president, will really stand up to this.
Jeff Cafferty here with the Cafferty Ball. Jeff. President Obama's plan to pay for the 400.
Now this is John Boehner. Now listen to how he comes up as though he's giving a State of the Nation address, as though he's the president. It's not. Well, I don't agree with what the chief executive wants, like they did with George Bush. Well, I don't agree, but I don't have privy to the information that he has privy to. I'm not privy to all of the information that he's privy to. So I can't second guess him. Now that's how they talk about presidents. But listen to Mr. Boehner here.
The $47 billion jobs bill with higher taxes, dead on arrival. Republicans are pushing back, insisting that tax hikes are off the table.
Oh, excuse me, that's not John Boehner, that's the Cafferty file, but John Boehner coming up though.
The White House says Congress should pay for the jobs bill by putting new limits on itemized deductions for the wealthy, including deductions for home mortgage interest, state and local property taxes, and charitable donations. In this case, wealthy means individuals who make more than $200,000 a year and families who earn more than $250,000. President Obama wants to end tax breaks for oil companies and corporate jet owners and cut out a tax break for investment fund managers. The White House says all these tax changes would raise $467 billion over 10 years. But Republicans are not hearing any of it when it comes to higher taxes. And that's not all they don't like. They've also rejected new stimulus spending on road projects, teacher salaries, and school construction. They say anything that smacks of another stimulus bill ain't going to happen. On the other hand, Republicans like the president's proposal to give more generous tax breaks to small businesses and the idea of pulling back burdensome government regulations. So far, President Obama is selling his plan to pay for the jobs bill as a single idea. But realistically, there's no way that will ever get through a divided Congress. Republicans say that certain parts of the president's plan, though, should be considered individually.